The shared note that typed back. The night our grocery list became directions at 9:12 p.m., our grocery list started typing back. It was the Yellow Notes app we share for boring miracles: milk, coffee, batteries, all the small nouns that help a day believe in itself. I opened it to add dish soap and watched a gray bubble appear near the bottom. E is editing. Then the cursor blinked in a place where we'd left a blank line under bananas, and words arrived that had no business in a pantry. Room 1206. South elevators, not the lobby ones. No ice bucket. Call down. The letters appeared, hesitated, then disappeared like a nervous confession. Two more lines replaced them, what a person writes when they think they've made a joke that might be true. Red dress, don't be late. I stared at the screen and felt my stomach choose a floor. The list had been renamed sometime today from Groceries Thursday to Grocery and Errands. The ampersand looked reasonable, like a good citizen. It also stretched the borders of the map until there were streets I didn't know how to drive. Eva and I made that list the week we moved in together and decided to become people who keep things simple. We set it to shared and let the dull magic do its chores. Watching the gray bubble type directions into our relationship felt like catching a hummingbird in a filing cabinet. I put the phone down on the counter, and the refrigerator answered with its old house wheeze. The apartment had the practiced quiet of a room that has already chosen a side and won't say which. She had left an hour earlier for books with Jen. She kissed me on the cheek and asked if we needed anything from the store. I had said dish soap, the innocence of someone who still believed in the original title of the list. She'd laughed. Noted, she said, and I thought it was a joke. Maybe it was. The gray bubble returned. A new line, then backspace, then a line that settled like a bird that wanted to be caught. Hotel Lark, 12th floor. I knew that hotel. Everyone knows the Lark even if they haven't paid to sleep in a room that smells like new money pretending to be older. It's the one with the brass birds over the bar and the glass elevator that makes you feel like you're rising into a story. I could have called. I could have texted, hey. Instead, I did the thing men do when they want to be brave without witnesses. I took the car keys like they were credentials and drove toward the bird. On the way, my mind tried on explanations like shirts you only wear on vacation. Maybe Jen was in from out of town and had a suite because her aunt works in event planning. Maybe red dress was a quote from the book club book. Maybe don't be late was for the dessert kitchen downstairs that stopped seating at 10. It was 9:23. The light turned red out of loyalty to dramatic timing. I looked up at the crosswalk clock as if it might be polite enough to extend our marriage by 22 seconds. The Lark's lobby is a sermon in bronze. The front desk glows like a well-fed idea. I recognize the concierge, midnight blazer, soft authority. I recognize the smell, expensive soap arguing with citrus. A pianist in the corner was playing something that would have been jazz if it stopped flirting. I walked past the birds and to the elevator bank. The glass car was making a slow show of bringing strangers to rooms with views. I pressed the arrow, then pressed it again. The mirror over the elevator doors told me what my face looked like. A man trying not to put a character on. 12 lit up. The doors opened with a sigh like a secret deciding not to be. In the elevator, a couple stood with their arms around each other and the etiquette of people who believe they are invisible. The man looked too with me in them. I took a breath. And I want you to tell him this is over tonight, even if tonight hasn't technically started. She laughed then, a short, grateful sound that belonged to the person I married. And what do you need from me besides a forwarded screenshot? Be cruel to the lie, I said. Not to yourself, not to me, to the lie. Every time it shows up with better lighting, show it the bill. She nodded slowly. I can do that, she said. I think I want to. She looked down at my phone. The grocery list still glowed, yellow and stubborn. She reached out and typed under my dish soap. Her nails clicked the glass like small decisions. Milk, bread, courage. She handed the phone back. I'll tell him now, she said. Wait here or go sit in the lobby with the birds, they'll keep you company. I'll be by the elevators, I said, near enough to be a witness, far enough to not be a prop. In the hall, I stood beside the glass car and watched the city reflected in the doors. A bridesmaid in black sneakers held her shoes and laughed with a man whose tie had given up. A woman in a blazer that cost enough to have opinions told someone on her phone that she wasn't going to do this again. We all lie in public at least a little. The elevator hummed in sympathy. The door to 1206 opened. A man stepped out, tall, competent, the kind of beard you have to maintain. He saw me and his posture did a small, respectable thing. It stopped performing. Behind him, Eva stood with her hands in the pockets of her coat, a habit from winters when pockets were the only place warmth lived. The man looked at me and then at her and then back and said a sentence I didn't hate him for. "I'll let you too," he said. It wasn't surrender. It wasn't contempt. It was a fence placed where a fence belonged. He walked down the other corridor, the one that led away from me, away from numbers I would no longer need to remember. Eva came to me and exhaled like a building turning off its lights. "All set," she said. The phrase was small and brave. In the elevator, our faces looked like neighbors. We watched ourselves descend, and I thought about gravity as a kind of honesty. On 12 we had floated. On 1 we reached floor. In the lobby, the birds over the bar pretended not to gossip. We didn't sit. We crossed the tile and let the automatic doors welcome us into ordinary air. The city had cooled into a version I trusted. We didn't talk until we were half a block away. "I almost hate that you came," she said, "because it means I get to be rescued from myself instead of doing the ordinary brave thing alone." "You hate it less than the alternative," I said. "So do I." I held up the phone. "Rename the list," she smiled, small and legal. "Back to groceries Thursday. Keep the sublist." "What sublist?" She took the phone and typed, "Things worth carrying." Under it she wrote, "Keys phone each other." She handed it back and shrugged like a child who just drew a house that looks like a square and is proud anyway. We went home. We made toast at midnight like students. We didn't perform passion, we practiced intimacy. YouTube would have 0 complaints about what we did and 1 quiet note of approval. We made a second list on the back of an electricity bill because that's where our best ideas live until we move them somewhere official. Thursdays, hours. No permanent decisions after 9 p.m. Be noisy on purpose. 1 dance class, 1 class that involves knives without metaphor. The bench by the river, even when the river pretends to be Paris. Tell the truth before the kettle boils. In the morning, we took the list to the store, like a vow disguised as errands. We bought milk and bread and courage, though courage turned out to be the name of the bakery's sourdough. She pointed to it and laughed and then looked at me like the joke had teeth and kindness. When we got home, I opened the Notes app and saw the old yellow page where our life keeps inventory. At the bottom, beneath dish soap, Eva had added 1 more line in her tidy, no-nonsense script. "Us, do not substitute." I tapped the checkmark beside it even though it wasn't the kind of thing you can buy. The interface didn't know what to do with that. It left the checkmark there anyway. Sometimes software gets lucky and tells the truth.